Welcome in everybody to the Line Movers Network College Basketball NCAA Tournament Sweet 16 edition. We're going to get right to all the games, all the trends, all the brackets, all the picks you need for this weekend. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us. Alongside me, we got Ian Robbins. We got the Tutor. We got Trey Edge, all here to bring you Sweet 16 action. Before we get into our picks and everything else on this great podcast, I want to recommend a great podcast, brand new to the market. It's incredible. Give it a listen. Give it a comment. Give it a thumbs up. I'm going to let Trey introduce it, but I highly recommend it. It's fantastic.
Thanks, David. And thanks to you guys, the Line Movers, for sponsoring it and getting this thing off the ground. New podcast that I'm hosting is called The Edge of It All. The tagline, the story behind the story. And what we're doing is we're talking to people from all walks of life. It could be an athlete, an actress, actor. Make sure I get the now, pronouns right and all that kind of stuff these days. But it's really going, it's kind of like a behind the music. You ever got into watching those shows? But with just different influential people from around the world. For example, our first interviews with a lady named Stormy Simon, who was the CEO of Overstock.com, got an incredible story. We're going to have a great lineup of guests, some surprises, so stay tuned. But we will have a new guest for you every 2 weeks. Comes out Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 Pacific. Every other Monday, The Edge of It All. You can find it on all social media. You can get the podcast across all the platforms where you get podcasts. And if you want to watch it in video, you can go to YouTube. It is The Edge of It All with Trey Edge. And I appreciate you guys supporting me on this kind of joint endeavor for all of us, really.
I really did. I heard the first episode and it is great stuff. Trey, I know you're trying to get Ian Robbins on 1 week. I'm going to try and work that out for you. I know it's hard. You're going to get through his agents. You'll get through his people, but eventually you'll get to Ian. Ian, start us off.
Yeah. Just to talk about Trey, we've been doing videos with Trey for a while and no one better than Trey, and his first show was fantastic. Trey's a great storyteller. Really looking forward to the following seasons. Trey and The Edge of It All. But we are so lucky to have our college football band back together. We got all four of us. We got me, Trey, David, and the Tutor, of course, here to break down what's been a tremendous college basketball NCAA tournament so far this year. I mean, upsets, close games, close finishes, blowout. Just amazing tournament in every walk. It's just been such an entertaining tournament to watch. So we got 16 teams left, and let's just go bracket by bracket. The Tutor, your trends were a big hit amongst people who watched last week's, and let's talk about some of them again. Let's start in the East region. East region is going to kick us off on this Thursday night. We got 4 teams left. We got Michigan State taking on Kansas State, and we have Florida Atlantic taking on Tennessee. Florida Atlantic, this is all coming from the Garden, Madison Square Garden in New York. Certainly a place that Michigan State is used to playing. Florida Atlantic, by far the best mid-major team this year. Not the lowest seed left, though, but we'll get to that later. Michigan State, Kansas State, Florida Atlantic, Tennessee. Curtis, what kind of trends you seen in this bracket right here?
Well, Ian, if you remember when we had the podcast last week, that no team that had been unranked to start the season amounted to anything in the NCAA tournament that were high seeds. This region had 2 of them, Marquette and Purdue. This region, if you also remember, also had Florida Atlantic, who was a top 25 KenPom team. So you knew that this was just going to be a wreck, and it absolutely was a wreck. So now you have, a 9 seed, a 7 seed, Tennessee and Kansas State in there. Now, the trend that I see here is that whoever beats Michigan State always gets to the Final Four, which very possibly could happen here. Or if Michigan State makes the Final Four. So it's one of those two. So I would focus on Kansas State or Michigan State moving on in this bracket. Tennessee is a 4 seed. An SEC, it's been a long time since an SEC team in the top 4 has made it to the Final Four. I think 10 years ago, I believe. No, 2014 was Kentucky. So I'm looking at this bracket. Florida Atlantic is still a KenPom potentially top 25 team. I could see them pulling off the upset with Tennessee. And then it's a toss-up. Kansas State, Michigan State. I'm gonna give the edge to Kansas State because I believe they seem to make the Elite Eight every 10 years or something like that, 15 years. So this the last one was 2010. So they seem to be in that range where they finally make another Elite Eight. So give me Kansas State over Michigan State, close game. And I am gonna call the upset, Florida Atlantic over Tennessee, close because of the KenPom.
Trey, what are you seeing in this region here?
You know, man, one of the themes that I saw this past weekend was defense. It's amazing how basketball changes. You know, we go through stretches where teams, you know, they'll score 85 points, and we go through stretches where the theme gets back to physical defensive play. And in this bracket, that team that stands out to me that did that was Tennessee. They imposed bully ball against Duke. I mean, if you watch that game from the opening whistle, they were so physical with Duke and made Duke look like kids. They're young. And Tennessee out there with 5 seniors. And now with Ziegler out, their entire starting lineup, I think, is over 6'6", or 4 of them are over 6'6". They're just so big and they're so physical. And I'm not sure Florida Atlantic can handle that. I think Florida Atlantic is a very, very good team, but I'm not sure they can handle the type of defense that the Volunteers can put out there. And I'll just say one more thing about that game. Tennessee is the best 3-point defense in the country. What does Florida Atlantic love to do? Shoot that 3. So I actually like the Vols here. And in the other game, this is a great matchup of point guards. When you look at Tyson Walker for Michigan State, Marquise Noel for Kansas State, man, those are 2 fantastic point guards. And I look at what Michigan State did against Marquette's point guard. They really neutralized him. He was an All-American. I think it was Tyler Kolak. I think that was his name for Marquette. And he was outstanding. And Michigan State shut him down. They neutralized him. And what surprised me about Michigan State is they usually don't force turnovers. They force 16. And they usually shoot the 3-ball well. They were 2 of 16. So they went against the grain and still won. The Michigan State-Kansas game to me is a toss-up. I can't get a feel for it. Everybody's going to say Izzo. I like Kansas State here. I love that point guard. I love the way they play. I love that even as a 3 seed, they're playing almost like an underdog. So I see Kansas State and Tennessee in this bracket. And for me, sooner or later, you got to put the ball in the bucket. I actually like Kansas State going to the Final Four out of this.
David, what do you see coming in the East over here?
I'm with Trey. I like Kansas State as a slight dog in this game. I like them to win outright. Jerome Tang, first-year coach from Kansas State under the Scott Drew Baylor tree. He's done a phenomenal job. And like Trey, I love guards in March. Noel has done a fantastic job. I know people are saying he's not hitting those shots again. This Kansas State team, this is no fluke. They've been doing this all year. They've beaten Kansas. They've beaten the top teams in the Big 12, what everyone thinks is the best conference all year. This is no fluke. It's going to be an all-out war. It's going to be tough on the rebounding. If they can rebound with Michigan State, I'm going to go with Trey. I like Kansas State here. In the second game, I disagree with the guys. I don't think the Florida Atlantic story is over yet. I think the point guard, he's slipping my name at Tennessee right now.
Oh, it's Zakai Ziegler.
Zakai Ziegler is out. I think it finally shows up here because Florida Atlantic really loves to pressure the ball. If they can pressure the ball effectively and take Tennessee out of their offense, Duke didn't do a great job of it the other day, and Duke couldn't hit a shot. but I think Florida Atlantic is athletic and they're long and they're big up front. I think they can make you show Ziegler's absence. And I actually think they can win this game outright. So I'm definitely taking the points, and I could see them in winning. Tennessee is challenged offensively. You've seen it since Ziegler's been out. I think Florida Atlantic escapes in the upset.
Couple things. I great breakdowns from all of you. A couple of things that kind of stand out to me is with all four of these teams, you see veterans on these teams. You see coaches who have been around. You see veterans. You see guys who've been around. Joey Hauser on Michigan State's been around for about 12 years in college basketball, it seems like. Kansas State had a missing piece, had a big question mark. Keontae Johnson, a couple of years ago, of course, collapsed on the floor following up SEC Player of the Year. Well, now he's kind of returned back to that form, and he's been all Big 12 player, and that's been really what's taken Kansas State over that next level. He's been around a while. Florida Atlantic is a team filled with veteran guys who have been around a while, played around a while. They're a deep team, 7-8 in rotation who could all score, play defense, team rotation, team defense, team offense. And Tennessee has gotten, a lot of players who have been around. Santiago Vescovi has been around a while. So yeah, Zakai Ziegler's out. And I do agree with David here. I think that that's going to come through. I like FAU. I actually like FAU to represent this region.
Oh, wow.
When it comes to Houston. I just think that their team balance overall. I'm going to go with the trend that the tutor is talking about with Ken Palm rankings don't lie. They're the ones that are top offense and defense efficiencies. They have not been a fluke all year long. They were a team in the tournament from the start. Give me FAU as a team to come out of there. And the one thing I'm going to say, all your breakdowns on Kansas State were fantastic, and it's hard for me to argue with that. I think they have more talent. I think they've had a much better season. They come from a better conference. A couple people have already said this to me. Why is Michigan State laying 1.5?
Yeah.
I have no idea. And if I can't answer that question for you, I'm betting on that side. Right?
Tom Izzo. That's the only reason.
Tom Izzo.
He's worth 5 points, probably.
In the Garden, in the tournament, does mean something. Experience does. They've been there. They have guys who have been there. I think it's going to be an all-out battle. Their games have been. There's been a game of swings. The team gets up by 10 early. Go bet the other side. Definitely. But that should be a fun region in the Garden. Maybe not the same teams. That maybe not the same brand names that people were expecting to see, but it should be some fantastic games. Let's go out west Thursday. From New York, we go out to Vegas, hosting a regional for the first time. And what a great couple games they have set up there at T-Mobile. First up, Arkansas out of the SEC, taking on UConn out of the Big East. Two teams we talked about last week, maybe being underseeded. Here we are. In the later game, two teams that are no strangers to playing in Las Vegas. Gonzaga, UCLA, a rematch of a classic, one of the better college basketball games we've seen in recent memory from a couple years ago in the Final Four, taking on in T-Mobile, both very familiar with playing in Las Vegas. A lot of veterans in that game. Players who have played in that rematch before. Should be amazing night of college basketball Thursday. West Region. Trey, what are you thinking here?
Man, this is athletes everywhere, and especially in that Arkansas UConn game. I mean, that's just an incredible matchup, and then coaches, Dan Hurley, Eric Musselman. I mean, Musselman, what's this? Is this 3 straight Sweet 16s, I think now?
With different teams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He gets his teams ready to play, because coming in, there was a lot of questions about Arkansas as an 8 seed with all the talent that they had. Jordan Hawkins, an incredible scorer for UConn, going up against one of the best perimeter defenders in the country in Devontae Davis for Arkansas. Questions here in that game. I think the questions surround Arkansas. They can get to points in games where their shot selection is questionable at best. They can get a little bit out of control. I think UConn presents a problem for Arkansas in the middle. Sanogo is a beast. He scored 52 points in the first 2 games, 21 rebounds. He was 24 of 33 shooting in those games. And I'm not sure Arkansas has an answer for him. And if there is a question about the Razorbacks, it's the defense. And I think that UConn can take advantage of them as the 4 seed. I love the way UConn's playing. They're playing tough. And I think they've got the athletes. I think Hawkins is an absolute stud on the offensive end. And when you combine him with the man in the middle, I like UConn there. The second game's incredible. Versus 3, Zaga, UCLA rematch of 2 years ago, 2021, when Jalen Suggs hit the almost half-court shot to propel Gonzaga to the national championship game. I've been so defensively focused on this podcast that I go to this game, and that's where my difference in these two teams lies. Gonzaga is the number 1 offense in the country. What have we seen? Even when we talk football, the defense can shut down a good offense. And there are questions for the Zags on defense. And you look at, the players, Tiger point guard Campbell for UCLA is an experienced NCAA point guard who can run this show. And I think they have the bodies UCLA does to deal with Timmy. I actually love UCLA here. I think they'll slow Gonzaga down enough where they're not going to put up 80 to 85 points. So in the end, I'll wind up with UConn and UCLA. And I'm just a lover of UConn right now. And I've got them going to the Final Four.
David, what are you seeing here?
I'll stick with that UCLA Gonzaga game. And I agree with Trey. It's going to come down to defense. Drew Timme showed me a lot in the last game. I've seen him play a long time now. He's been there a long, long time. I think he broke the record the other night for most points scored at Gonzaga in a career, which says something. But Sunday night down the stretch, they got the ball to Timme every single time, and he converted. And if he didn't score, he was double teamed and he threw it out to the hot 3-point shooter, who then went on to hit the 3. He was really locked in. He was really focused. I love the way he was playing. That's as good as he's played in his career at Gonzaga. I'm with Trey. This comes down to defense. And this is where Jalen Clark, and I'm an Arizona guy, don't really like to hype up UCLA. Jalen Clark, for my money, is the best defender in college basketball. He is hurt. He is done. He is out. That's gonna be big here. Because the Gonzaga guards, although this isn't your typical awesome All-American backcourt with Gonzaga, there are great athletes, and they can score. Clark's absence really gives them a problem, I believe, on defense. And I'm going to take Gonzaga to outscore UCLA. The other matchup, I'm with Trey, absolutely. UConn just looks like they have it this year. They're big, they're fast, they're athletic. They played great guard play. Dan Hurley really has this team clicking. When they were clicking early in the season, I think they got off to a crazy 12-0, 13-0 start. They were one in the country. They lost about 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, and everyone fell out of love with them. Well, this right now is the team that was that number 1 team in the country. I love the way Hurley has these guys playing. I'm with Trey. Adama Sanogo is a force. I don't think anyone in the country, except maybe Drew Timme, matches up really well with him. And even Timme isn't quick enough down in the post. I like Connecticut to knock out Arkansas, and I'm with Trey. Connecticut goes to the Final Four out west.
All right, Tudor, what kind of trends you got for us setting up the West region over here? Who's going to come to the Final Four?
Yeah, so UCLA is one of the 5 KenPom top 25 team on both sides. They're not close. They're in. But that was probably with Clark playing, right? That's a toss-up game for me, and I don't think it matters because I'm going to go different here from you guys. Arkansas looked pretty good in both the games they played. The SEC was a very good conference, and the last time the SEC team went to the finals was an 8 seed Kentucky in 2014. Arkansas happens to be an 8 seed. I think they're going to continue the run. And like you guys, I don't think Gonzaga and UCLA has enough to beat UConn, as you guys think, but I don't think UConn beats Arkansas. So I'm doing the same situation as you guys, but I'm going with Arkansas over UConn and then over whoever wins the Gonzaga UCLA game, which I think will be a shootout without Clark there. It should be a fun game.
And one thing I'll say about Arkansas is that game that they had was as impressive as a game that we've seen as far as coming back against Kansas in the second half after being down and a lot of foul trouble, a lot of fouls going on in that game. And for them to hit shots, come back in the second half. The reason why they're an 8 seed with all the talent that they have and all the legit NBA talent that they have is because of their inconsistencies. And where Musselman's a great coach, an even better tournament coach as we've seen, their inconsistencies in shot selection, making shots this year has really been their downfall. So whether or not they could back up a great game, and if they do back up a great game, which I think they're definitely in the game, like Tudor said, that can they do it again in the next one? That would be the big question mark for me. And I'm going to back you up, David. That Jalen Clark injury, I think this is really where it comes through. What Drew Timme, this is the one I circled. I think I mentioned this one last week when I was talking to Tudor about this. Just like, where does the defensive presence come in? Well, you're facing the number one offense. And not only that, I've been kind of a Gonzaga truther for the last couple of years. They've been the big dog, the undefeated team, the big favorite, the small school out west trying to break through. Now they're an underdog, but with the same guys, with the same coach, with the same feel. Maybe they got a little chip on their shoulder. Maybe Drew Timme says, "This is my turn now. You don't believe in me now. You know, let me just ride the wave." So I think just things are aligning for Gonzaga right now. It's hard to argue that maybe they haven't been the best team in the nation the last couple of weeks. We'll see. This is going to be a tremendous Thursday night of basketball. It's been to follow up with everything.
I do want to say that I am going against my trend there. UConn is one of the 5 teams that are top 25 in both the KenPom. So me going with Arkansas over them, it was against my trend. I just feel like Arkansas had looked great in both games. UConn did too, but I'm gonna stick with the SEC. Moving on there.
All right, so what is it? Very much a game of tight spreads on Thursday. We switch over to Friday for the Midwest and the South regions, which is a day of not so close spreads. A lot of Cinderellas, a lot of surprise teams, but our 2 number 1 seeds left. And just because the point spread is a little bit bigger this night doesn't mean we should basically expect the unexpected here as we come along. Let's start with the South region here. We got the number 1 overall seed, Alabama, leading off Friday night, taking on San Diego State at Louisville, Kentucky, at the KFC Yum Center. Following that game in the South region, you got Cinderella of all Cinderella, Princeton, the 15 seed, the dominant 15 seed. Sorry, David, hate to bring them up to you. To upset Arizona and then totally destroyed Missouri on their way to the Sweet 16, taking on Creighton, who looked very strong as a 6th seed out of a very strong-looking Big East Conference. South region, Alabama, San Diego State, Creighton, Princeton. David, what are you seeing here?
This is another region with great games. I'll go to the Creighton-Princeton game. As I've loved the Princeton story. Like you said, I'm an Arizona guy, but I almost wish I wasn't over the weekend because I love the way Princeton plays basketball. Just a phenomenal situation. Coaching, excellent. Shot selection is tremendous. They're playing that 1-3-1 matchup D, and it confused Arizona, and it really confused Missouri. But I think McDermott, Greg McDermott, the coach at Creighton, now has a week to prepare for it. And he's got him on film and everything. And I love Creighton's big guy, Kalkbrenner. And he's not big, but he is tall. And you know what? He's skinny, but he's strong. And he's got some decent touch. I think they have a little too much for Princeton down low, especially. I think McDermott takes the coaching here and shows his team what Princeton will be running. And the Princeton story ends here. I got Creighton advancing. I do like Creighton to cover the 10 points as well. So I don't see Princeton being that close after the first half. The second game, Alabama, San Diego State. San Diego State wants to yuck this game up. They want to make it ugly. They want to be physical. San Diego State goes 10 deep. They're not going to worry about foul trouble. They are literally have two teams that could go in and out. And you'll see the subbing if you haven't watched them. The subs are left and right for Brian Dowsher's team. He is really deep. He's big. He's athletic. He's got a long, long team. So they're not going to worry about the fouls down low. As much talent as Alabama has, my one worry with Alabama is their shot selection. They seem to go in droughts and take bad shots. They wait sometimes till the shot clock is running down if they don't get a fast break, and they seem to settle for bad shots. I'm concerned about that because if you've seen in this tournament, scoring droughts have been left and right, and those are the teams that seem to get knocked out. I like it, Alabama to win, but closer than 7. I like San Diego State to cover because I like those big guys down low to keep it close and tough and physical for the entire game. Alabama pulls it out close in the end. And I have Alabama beating Creighton in a great Elite Eight game over the weekend.
Tudor, what are you seeing on the trends in the South region?
Trends are going to be broken in this one. With Alabama, hadn't made a Final Four in a while, especially as a high seed, and they're playing a team, San Diego State from the Mountain West, who has never won outside the Sweet 16, I believe. So one trend got to be broken here pretty quick here, and I think Alabama cakewalks them. This isn't the same Steve Fisher San Diego State team that we've seen in the past. The 3 seeds, the 4 seeds. This Alabama's pretty good. They'll cover easily. The other side of the game, Creighton, Princeton, a trend that probably nobody knows that a 6 seed has the longest Final Four drought in the history. The last team that not to make the Final Four is a 6 seed. Creighton happened to be a 6 seed. However, this isn't to get to the Final Four. So what I see easily happening here is Creighton beating Princeton and Alabama beating San Diego State, Alabama beating Creighton. But it's one of those things where this seems too easy. I wouldn't doubt a San Diego State Princeton matchup come on next week. So we'll see. That's what I want because Alabama, it's just trends wise. There's going to be a lot of trends broken in this one, so this could get wild.
Trey, what are your thoughts here on the South?
Yeah, I will agree with my man. I would love to see a San Diego State Princeton game get to the Final Four. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love it. I'll go Bama game first. And what David said, this is going to be all about tempo. Can San Diego State, as David said, muck this up? That was with an M, muck this up. Bama is 5th in the country in possessions per game, 73 of them. San Diego State, 263rd, 66 possessions per game. Doesn't sound like a big difference. It's huge. Can they slow this game down to the point where they have a shot? Because all they can hope for is a shot down toward the end of the game. Brandon Miller is going to be the best player on the floor. They will be very physical with him. Which guy shows up? The guy that didn't score any points in the first game, or the guy that started to find his stroke in that second game? And I go back to San Diego State's a great story, but let's be real here. Charleston to beat Furman. That's a fairly easy path. Not easy, but a favorable path to get you to the Sweet 16. I like Bama here. I hope San Diego State makes it as ugly as humanly possible because I want to see that. And I want to see how Bama handles that. I do think Bama gets the win, though. And the other matchup, people forget, Creighton preseason was a top 10 team. They lost a bunch of games in November and December, and we kind of lost sight of them. But they were a top 10 preseason team. This is a team with a ton of talent. And, they lost to Kansas, who eventually won the national championship last year. Princeton's all about versatility and execution. I just don't know that they've got enough. Creighton's going to roll out athlete after athlete out there. If they get hot shooting that 3, it's going to be over early. And I think Creighton will get the win. I do think we get a Bama-Creighton matchup. Although, again, it's not what I'm pulling for. everything tells me to take Bama. My head says it, but something in my gut just won't let me do it. I'm going to go Creighton to get to the Final Four. So far, we've got Creighton and Kansas State in the Final Four. It's been a crazy tournament. Why not keep it going?
But if Creighton, no doubt, has an easy game with Princeton, if they do blow them out, they will be well rested for a game with Alabama, who might let you guys mud it up. So I can totally see that happening. And they're coming in the game fresh, and Alabama's coming in the game beat up.
Yeah, and Trey, kind of, I was going to say that Creighton was preseason top 10 team that out of this core group, they were the team that had the most talent coming in. They got experience. Ryan Nembhard is experienced point guard, been there. A large reason for that. They were favorites in the Battle for Atlantis final against Kansas this year. Lost that game tight. Was that? Yeah. Anyway, they were a team to be reckoned with this year, and it's hard to imagine. It makes sense to see them here in this spot with a veteran guard and Ryan Nembhard. Now, San Diego State has been consistently good in the Mountain West all year, and that Mountain West team actually put 4 teams into the tournament. That's more than the Pac-12. So that's a decent conference. They're a team that's been ranked in the top 25 pretty consistently all year. So we got to give San Diego State credit as a program as well that's been around. So yeah, they can slow it down. I think this is a game that Alabama did not want to see, just because of the depth, because of the length, because of the experience that San Diego State has. And Princeton's a great story. How about this trend? 3 straight years of 15 seed has made the Sweet 16.
Crazy.
Princeton runs that up-tempo, old school Princeton style offense, and be fun to see. Is great. I mean, they just were firing on cylinders. I just don't know if they could play that kind of game again against an experienced, good, well-coached Creighton team out of a battle tested. Now, they were inconsistent this year. They certainly had their ups and downs, but preseason rankings do matter when it comes to this stuff because it's based on talent and projection. And Creighton has the talent. And if they're playing well, I do like Creighton out of this bracket too. I think the upset watch is Alabama. I think of any game Thursday night, the upset watch is Alabama, the first game of the day. On that note, let's shift over to the Midwest region.
Can I say one more thing, Ian?
Go ahead.
I'm changing my pick. I'm looking at KenPom. Creighton is right there, top 25 in both now.
Yeah,
I'm going Creighton over Alabama now.
their defense is much better lately.
All right. So let's jump over to the Midwest region. We got the number 1 seed with Marcus Sasser back in the lineup, scoring some points. Houston taking on Miami, who again was the regular season conference champion in the ACC, if we don't remember that. Winning a couple good, well-contested games here. In the first game, Houston, the 7-point favorite in that game. This is in Kansas City, Missouri. And then the late game, probably the closest game on paper of the day, the 2-3 matchup between Texas, who has looked pretty good throughout the tournament, taking on Xavier. Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Xavier have to escape in the first round, come back and escape?
Yes, they did. Tennessee saw State, gave them everything they could handle.
So great matchup there. All right. Texas was the Tutor's pre-tournament pick that he gave out last week. They're looking pretty decent here. So I'll go right to you, Tutor. What are you seeing in this Midwest region?
Yeah, I'm not even talking about Texas. Texas is going to win it all. So let's move on to the Houston-Miami game, because what's important here is that a team, but we talked about this before, Houston is from a small bid conference, right? Small bid conferences don't amount to anything in the long run of a tournament. Having said that, I mean, Houston is a very good team. They've been to the last couple of Elite Eights, I believe, maybe the last 3. But there is no other, here's the thing, there's no other ACC team, right? And 33 out of the last 37 Elite Eights have had an ACC team in there.
Wow.
I didn't think Houston was going to beat Auburn when they shouldn't have. If you watched that game, Auburn blew that. I'm going to go Miami upset. over Houston, and then Texas gets another easy game to the Final Four.
All right, Trey, our resident ACC
Yeah.
expert over here. You got one
Let me
ACC
save,
left.
yeah, let me save that one for a second. I'll go to the Tudors team down there in Texas, who I love as well. And I look at Xavier. I'm focused on defense this entire podcast. Xavier has questions there. I think this is a team that gave up 84 points to DePaul in the Big East tournament. They were down by double digits.
Hey,
to
DePaul's
Kennesaw.
powerhouse, all right. They
Yeah.
know it.
and you know, it's not, you're not belittling a team that's made the Sweet 16. Xavier, I mean, they're a 3 seed. Obviously, they're a very good team. I'm just trying to focus on where is the weakness here. And I don't think Texas has one. And what, by the way, what a great coaching job by Rodney Terry.
Incredible.
Stepping in for Chris Beard and all the problems he had. It has been one of the best coaching jobs we've ever seen for the Texas Longhorns, a team that has notoriously underachieved in the NCAA tournament. And I think they roll here. I think they're going to put up a lot of points against Xavier. So get to that Houston-Miami matchup. Again, it is another clash of styles. Houston is a half-court team. Miami wants to get out and transition. You're going to have athletes everywhere. Sasser, Wong from Miami. There's so many guys, but the guy I have to focus on is Miami's man in the middle, Norchad Omier. I hope I pronounced that right.
You got
He
it.
is good. Yeah, coming off that injury, he showed that he was okay last week. He has to have, in my opinion, the best game he's ever had. He's a 6'7" guy in the middle, and he is going to be beaten on and banged all night by Houston and the physical way that they play. These are two very good offensive rebounding teams. And again, this is a great, in my opinion, coaching matchup. Sampson's a fantastic coach, one of the best in the country. I think Jim Larrañaga is as well, but doesn't get the notoriety and the publicity that the other guys get. But Larrañaga is a fantastic – I saw him all year in the ACC this year. He is a master at little tweaks in game plans, throwing you off a little bit. Just watch him. He's a fantastic coach. What worries me about Houston, quite frankly, is shooting the basketball. I think they do go through stretches where they struggle to score. I think this is a great matchup, a great game. And I'm with Tudor. I am actually going to pick Miami in the upset, even though Houston's the most balanced team in the country. I'm going to go in the year of upsets. I'm going to take 3 of them, Creighton, Kansas State. Oh, that's not really an upset. To get to the Final Four, I'm going to take Miami to get there as well, along with who else? Who's the fourth one I picked? UConn. There you go.
UConn. No, so you have no 3 seed. Or Kansas State. You got a 1-3 seed.
Yep.
No team has won the national title that wasn't a 3 seed
There
in
you
the
go.
last many years.
All right, David, what's your take on this final region as we come around?
This region is loaded with guards, and I love guards in March. We'll go to the Texas Xavier game first. Texas and Xavier. Xavier coached by Sean Miller, 1 year removed from his Arizona gig. Xavier's fantastic guard to me is Soleil Boom, and this kid is incredible. He does it all. Shoots the ball really well, and defensively, he's just always in your face. He's a terrific talent, but I think Texas has too much. Dylan Disu, a swing forward, power forward, was on fire on Saturday night. He hit every shot he took, I think. He was just awesome, and he was huge on the boards and defensively. He was fantastic. Marcus Carr, the guard from Texas, really got him through the weekend as well. From the three-point range, he was on fire. His defense is great. I'm with Trey. I think the coach should be National Coach of the Year from Texas. When you take over a program and you have kids devastated, 2 weeks into the season, your coach is gone. You think the whole year is out the window, and he pulls them back together and goes on this run and through the Big 12, and now he's got his team in the Final 8. Incredible job. He's my coach of the year. I like Texas. Moving on. I think they have just too much firepower for Xavier. I see a lot of points here. Texas moving on. The next game, Miami, Houston. Trey stole my thunder here. 2 fantastic tournament coaches. Larinaga with the X and O's. I agree with Trey. He doesn't get any of the credit, but every year, last year, Miami wasn't supposed to be there. Final eight. Took George Mason when they were nobody and they beat UConn to go to the Final Four. He's a master at figuring these things out. I was down on Houston. If you would have spoke to me a week ago, I didn't think they were healthy. I thought Sasser, who to me is the most important guy, wasn't going to be ready and wasn't going to be close to 100%. He shut me up in the second half of that game. Houston went on a defensive tear. I think Auburn had 2 baskets in the second half of that game. Their defense just rose to the occasion. And I see that defense getting in. As much as I love Isaiah Wong and Jordan Miller, the Miami guards, they are fantastic. But I see too much athletic defenders on Houston. They're going to get in their faces and really make them hit tough shots. Miami is guard oriented. They shoot from the outside. The one big guy, Norchad Omier, like Trey said, is their only big guy of talent. Houston's going to throw a lot of big bodies, and they're going to have it physical down there. They want to see him get in foul trouble and get him out of the game. He did show me he was healthy, but I think he's outnumbered down low, and I think there's too many big athletic big guys down low for Houston. So Houston in a tight game. I like Houston to move on. And then the battle everyone wanted to see, Houston versus Texas for a spot in Houston in the Final Four. I'm sorry, boys. I'm going with Houston. I like Sasser. Moving on. Going home to the Final Four.
One amendment, real clear. I was picking Miami to beat Houston, but I'm not picking them to beat Texas. I've got Texas going to the Final Four.
I was gonna say, wait a minute.
Yeah, I jumped the gun on that one.
All right, yeah.
Let me throw this one at you, because you mentioned Sean Miller, David. How many Final Fours has Sean Miller been to? 0. And how many Final Fours has Xavier been to in 28 appearances? 0. Do not take Xavier, people.
Great. You guys covered all the things I was thinking about. Wong versus Sasser, just clash. Kelvin Sampson against Jim Larinaga. 2 tremendous tournament coaches. Houston has been there in the second weekend. Feels like almost every year. Miami has been there hanging around since they hired Larinaga. Very underrated hiring when they hired him away from George Mason, by the way. A lot of credit to Miami Athletic Department for making that move. I think we all agree that that's going to be the game that we're going to see. I do think that Houston has a little bit too much, makes it a little bit too frustrating. Miami's just a little bit too up and down. Houston is still consistently, they were number 1 preseason. They're number 1 seed now. The way they closed out that game was pretty impressive against Auburn. And the fact that we all think that Texas is just going to cakewalk Xavier, I'm a little nervous about that. It makes me want to put Xavier to win the title here. I don't know. But I just think this is where the injury loss of Fremantle just comes to fruition for Xavier and just a little too much for them to move on against Texas, who has been, again, a preseason top 10 team and played that way. Champions of the Big 12, probably the best conference in the league in the nation all year. So look at that breakdown of these fantastic games that we have on deck for us. And 4 games Thursday night, 4 games Friday night, sure to be a great weekend of college basketball. Let's go around the horn. We got our Final Four picks, we got our championship picks, and then after that we'll preview the Florida, Michigan, North Carolina bracket that we have for all Arizona bracket that we have left for all us here. No, we'll talk a little bit of Survivor. There's a little Survivor strategy left coming around. We'll talk about that now. So Survivor's been a fun game this year. A lot of people have been asking me about strategies of it. Of course, I'm out because I went the method of let's choose Missouri when they're facing Princeton, and did that. I know a lot of people took Purdue early on, and that got them out. My philosophy had always been try to survive and then advance and then figure it out. Didn't work for me this year, unfortunately. But looking at a Survivor play right now, a lot of pools make you pick 1 a day, 1 a round, 2 a day. Tudor, I think yours is saying that we got to go 2 a day just to really crank it in. A lot of people doing Sweet 16 only brackets here. Tudor, do you have any advice or any thoughts on a Survivor play, how you might attack this slate? I'm struggling right now. Both 1 seeds, all the big spreads, Creighton, everybody's playing on Friday. So how do you attack Thursday to get to Friday? who you saving, how you trying to save that. You scared to take underdogs, people. So any kind of survivor strategy that you're thought about. You are the pool guy, the king of the sports pools. Any thoughts over here?
Well, I'm looking at my big one, my big survivor, 200 something $1,000. And when you're looking at, so you can see pick availability, right? Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, Tennessee, all are low. People used them early. If you're thinking from the mindset of, I got to be different, try to win this, ship this myself, and you have one of those guys, you have to go probably the Florida Atlantic Tennessee game, and go the opposite way. It Florida Atlantic win, you're gonna be in great shape. Tennessee win and all the favorites win, you're gonna tie with quite a bit of people, because Alabama, I'm looking at the stats here. Everybody got Alabama left. Everybody seemed to have Texas left, Houston. People seem to have saved these teams. So if you're trying to win this, if you're trying to win your big survivor and you don't really want to split, you got to root for chaos. And I would go for Florida Atlantic. Beating Tennessee would be a hell of a start, because I think a lot of people are going to pick Tennessee this week in the first game. They are.
David, you got any thoughts on in this area here? I'm struggling for the Thursday. I'm curious to see where you're at here.
Thursday, I'm struggling too. I'm right with you. Friday, it's Creighton for me. Friday, if you can survive Thursday, I got to use Creighton on Friday. If I lose, I lose, but I'll go down with the 10-point favorite. Upsets happen in this tournament left and right. It wouldn't stun me if Princeton wins, but survivor-wise, I'd be on Creighton on Friday. Thursday is so hard. I think the best play is probably UConn, but I'm trying to save them because I think they're moving on to the Final Four, which is also very difficult. I would probably take a shot on Kansas State, but that's 50-50 too. Thursday's really, really tough. I'm with you, and I can't find a team I can really suggest. But if you get through Thursday, I'd be on Creighton Friday.
I would predict that Michigan State, Kansas State game that everybody is going to be on, and it's going to be close. And if you can stay away from that game and let half the people lose their entry and be right, you might be in good shape. So even if you had Tennessee left, take the easy win, let the Kansas State, Michigan State work itself out. That could be a good strategy as well.
I honestly think that Tennessee is going to be the team that people are on.
Yeah, I agree.
This week.
But according to my pool, they're not. They've been used a lot. That first round game.
That first round game,
Yeah.
without the injury, that they probably that would be the one game and then be done.
Correct.
And a lot of people, the Duke game, how many people,
Right.
Everyone was on Duke.
So
yeah,
I think from a strategy standpoint, yes, looking at the pick availability is something that Tudor talks about a lot, is using that data to try to, game theory wise, if you're just kind of in your own world and you're trying to think of, okay, who's the big favorite? Tennessee's the big favorite. They're facing the Conference USA school, the school that nobody really knows about, the school in Boca Raton, where David and I have some family, some roots to there. Me, you, and Jerry Seinfeld. And is that the place that people are going to go? Kansas State, Michigan State, why the 3-seed underdog, 50-50 toss up, Gonzaga an underdog, I think UConn's the place that I would go as well. Having that, trying to avoid some of those games, it is so tough on Thursday. Try to pick one, let alone two games to get through. It's one of those, if you have multiple entries left, I hate to say burn them because they're worth money, but you want to survive. And then just, David said Friday, Creighton, kind of set it, forget it. If you go down with a 10-point dog to Princeton again, you go down. I'm okay when I lost down to Princeton. It is what it is. You come back. Most people are on FAU because that's what you were supposed to play. You play against the 16 seed that just beat the 1 seed. It's a tough game. Survivor is fun because of moments, because of conversations like this.
Yeah.
I've had them with multiple people. I'm having a good conversation right now, and this is what makes you provoke. It's different than just picking a bracket. Survivor's a different way of thinking. This is why it's popular in the NFL. This is why it's going to get popular in March Madness, and I love it. Trey, did you have any other thoughts? I know you said just
I'm with you. Thursday's tough. I like Creighton. I'm with you. I think we all agree on that. But obviously for me, UConn a lot. But I'm with David. You're trying to save them. You're trying to find a way to save the team you think could win it all. So I get down there to that FAU Tennessee. I mean, it's just tough. I mean, you said a lot of people have already taken Tennessee. And it's nothing more than my gut. I like actually what Tudor said about saving that Michigan State or staying away from that Michigan State-Kansas State game. But I like Kansas State a lot more than a lot of people do. So, I was looking there. But those 4 games Thursday are both very, very difficult, yet fantastic. The fact that they are so difficult tells you exactly the kind of matchups we have. That Tennessee FAU people are going to just trend toward that SEC team. But I'm trying not to focus on UConn. Man, my gravity's just taking me to Kansas State.
When you guys do your survivor pick this late in the game, do you guys hedge?
No.
On the sports book, do you put a couple hundred on the team that shouldn't win? Princeton, a couple hundred on Princeton, go for Creighton, and we'll see what happens.
only moment I would hedge is in the final. If I knew I had guaranteed money on the other side, I would not hedge at this point.
You're so far from winning, even if you get through on Thursday or Friday. You got to battle. You got to get through this weekend to get to the Final Four. There's so many games ahead. It's so tough.
All right. Let's close this up. That's a great conversation. If you
Great
guys
stuff.
didn't take notes out of that, didn't get something out of that, right or wrong, you're gonna have a lot to look forward to. Probably see a lot of these breakdowns coming through. Real quick, just rapid fire. Give me 4 teams, one on top. I'll start it off. In the East, FAU representing it. In the West, Gonzaga. FAU taking on Gonzaga. In the South, I am looking at Creighton with the upset. And in the Midwest, I think Houston survives. I like Gonzaga to win it all. Trey, what do you think?
Yeah, I told you I took Kansas State as one of my surprises. UConn, not a surprise there. So that's 2 of them. I had Texas and Creighton. What a Final Four. Would you have ever in a million years predicted that would have been my Final Four? I'm on the Tudor train. Texas winning it all.
David, what do you got?
I'm going
Tudor-
Florida.
The Tudor train is going to be Creighton. I changed my pick to Creighton
That's right. You did. That's right.
versus Kansas State. Texas is winning it all, so we got Texas, and I'm the one that went with Arkansas.
All right. So we got a couple Texas. David, what do you say?
In the East, I'm going Florida Atlantic. In the West, I'm going UConn. In the Midwest, I'm going Houston. In the South, I'm going Alabama. I have UConn winning it all.
All right. There you have it. Welcome.
Who are yours?
Oh, I
You're
said
getting out of this.
no, I said at the beginning.
Oh,
did
I'm
it?
sorry. I'm sorry.
At FAU, I had
You got
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga.
Had FAU Gonzaga,
You're right. My bad.
Houston, and I got Creighton, and I got Drew Timme and Mark Few finally getting that big monkey off their back. Gonzaga.
Wouldn't hurt my feelings at all if I saw that.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
If anybody deserves it, Mark Few deserves it.
Yeah.
How ironic would it be? The team that no one liked
John
a month into the
Beilein.
season,
John
right? No
Beilein
one-
deserved.
Yeah, he does. So, all right, everybody.
Enjoy the games.
So much. Enjoy the games. It's a fantastic day. There's nothing better than March Madness college basketball. Craziness, great games. These games are amazing. Enjoy the weekend. Check out Trey's new podcast, The Edge of It All. Line Movers. Check out all of the Tudors pools, amazing pools, everything, anything that you could imagine. Dave and I are just lucky to be along with these two.
No. Let me say one thing. You're right. Edge's podcast is awesome. No one does better with the pools than the Tudor. Ian just hit a 70-1 golf outright. If you're playing the golf, you better be listening to Ian. He hits them left and right like they're no big deal. But let me tell you, it's borderline impossible. Ian knows golf better than anyone out there.
Thanks, David. Hey, it's been a pleasure, everybody. Good luck. We'll see you at the end.
Thanks, guys.